All right, Madam Chair, you are live.
Great, welcome to the January 17th afternoon meeting of the House Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee. We are here this afternoon for just a committee discussion of the FY25 Budget Adjustment Act. So, and we have an expert in the room. So let's quickly go around the table and introduce ourselves, and then we'll introduce our honored guest. I'm Rep. Kathleen James from Manchester.
Campbell St. Johnsbury.
Rich Bailey from Lamoille 2.
Morrow from Weston.
Michael Sutter, Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Darren Torrey, Washington 2.
Graham Klepner, Chittenden 13.
Morrisville, Wyndham 2.
And Jim Harrison from Rutland 11, and I live in the town of Chittenden.
Thank you. Rep. Harrison is much better to discuss this than I am, but in general, we've talked about this with some of our newer members. The Budget Adjustment Act is an annual bill that we take up at this time of the year to true up our fiscal accounts midway through the fiscal year. And Vermont's fiscal year is July 1 to January 30th, so we're about halfway through. So one of the bills as our legislature that we take up is that Budget Adjustment Act, literally adjusting the budget. And budget bills like this always originate in the House and go to the Senate. And so our folks in the Appropriations Committee have been hard at work. And in an effort to stay coordinated, committees appoint representatives to the Appropriations Committee, and then in turn, members of the Appropriations Committee each oversee a portfolio of budget areas that they kind of, I guess, run herd on. So we are here today to talk about some areas of the Budget Adjustment Act that I think the Appropriations Committee wants to hear from us on. We'll be sending them a very brief little memo, and as we discussed earlier, those are our advisory thoughts, and then the Appropriations Committee takes that under advisement and does what they need to do.
We value the input, though, of policy committees.
They value the input of the policy committees.
That's our story.
Yeah, and their job is to weigh a bunch of competing interests and a bunch of competing opinions and turn out a balanced, fiscally responsible budget, which the state of Vermont always passes a balanced budget. So, yes.
Would you like questions, or should we reserve them for our esteemed guest?
Let's reserve them for our esteemed guest. Jim, should you come up? I think you should.
I'm welcome to do whatever. I hate to be a target, but
Great.
it's for the record, Jim Harrison from the House Appropriations Committee. I guess we got our wires crossed. I thought you wanted me to come in and talk about H16.
We did get our wires crossed.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I think the chair explained the budget adjustment. For the new members, it's an annual right that we go through when we're doing a budget for, like we're going to start in just a couple weeks on fiscal year 26 budget. You're doing it now, and that ends 18 months from now because it doesn't start till July, and then it's to the following July. And there are a lot of assumptions made and estimates made that need to get adjusted. We don't know, for example, at this point in time, how many people are going to be on the Medicaid program, and that's typically a big adjustment one way or the other come next January, or this January for the current fiscal year. So it is a process that we go through. There are a lot of ups and downs. If there are extra revenues, sometimes you'll see in our budget that the administration has recommended of paying back some deficits that we have. For example, one of the things we learned, not that it's this committee, is that the liquor fund we've been transferring more money than was actually there. So there's a deficit there that at some point you gotta pay back, and make it whole. So anyhow, I'm happy to talk to you about one of the areas in my budget portfolio is the Agency of Digital Services. Representative Campbell was down in committee and now knows exactly as much as I do, which is limited, as to there are some adjustments not in the ADS budget itself, but other departments have shown up with, they didn't have enough budgeted for their ongoing support with ADS. And what we learned, one of the primary drivers of that, which I didn't realize, is they do a kind of a final billing after the fiscal year is over. So in September, they bill their various agencies that they support, which is most of state government. It's not the legislature and it's not judiciary because separate branches of government. But basically everything else in the executive office relies on the Agency of Digital Services for all their IT work. So, and they're like a law firm. They track billable hours and they charge those, but you certainly have estimates going forward, and they actually bill in the fall after the fiscal year ends. So some departments and agencies evidently didn't build enough into their budgets to anticipate some of that. And we're trying to get at that issue as to why, because we don't really like getting surprises in the Budget Adjustment Act. Because what happens is it's not a huge deal. You're going to spend the money one way or another. But if you don't have extra funds that you can draw on to pay these, then it sort of going to beg some questions. What do you have to cut come mid-year to make the books balance? So we've learned a few things. I think you would agree. I mean, for one, they're using billable hours forms from a few years old, which, obviously people are paid more now over a few years, and also some, some of the estimating maybe needs to be improved, but.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a surprise to me that they haven't changed the rates that they're billing at.
Right.
84 and $88 an hour, I think, depending on the project. For I don't know how many years, so several years. And yeah, I mean, first thing they're starting with that seems quite low for basically billing for professional services.
Right.
And the other thing is there was this discussion that was going on when I got there was something about billing for the annual subscription to, say, Microsoft Office, even though a program or a department or something might be just gearing up and might be starting partway through the year and might not be using those services for the whole year, but they're still paying for an annual subscription, something like that. So there are various ways in which it seems like we're overpaying for IT services. But
Yeah, as it was explained to us, I mean, we have sort of like the base cost of that agency. And they take those base costs and they charge it out to all the various agencies, departments, commissions that they support on a per head basis. And then they have extra work as, extra needs, programming, whatever, for various department agencies, and that's billed separately. So it's interesting, and I didn't bring copies, but I can share the presentation. Is it Jack?
Yep.
Check.
Okay, if you go to our appropriations website for yesterday, there is kind of like a tutorial of some of the monies they charge and allocation. That is kind of interesting because it does the last 3 fiscal years. And it may be something that it's worth spending a couple minutes on, at some point at your leisure to kind of share, a little bit about the various, issues. They get spending authority in the budget each year, but the things that they work on, and software updates are actually charged to the various department and agencies, and that's where it shows up in their budget. If you look at ADS's budget, and Scott and I will go over that when we do our pre-budget meeting before they go to the committee. They'll have some big numbers there, but it's all charged off. It's kind of like, so their budget themselves typically ends up being zero because they have $12 million in expenses. There's $12 million that they get from the various agencies. So it's the individual agencies that show, other than some huge IT projects and upgrades that we might have appropriated differently.
Representative Sabina?
Thanks, Madam Chair, and I know we haven't taken any testimony from ADS or about how ADS works, and Rep. Harrison is doing a great job, I think, kind of high leveling that.
That's all I can do, high level.
But, the question that I have is, has the Appropriations Committee folks, did you hear from ADS or Finance and Management about how to avoid this becoming a recurring issue?
Good question. We had that question yesterday, and I think ADS recognizes that not only is the charges for the billable hours outdated, which obviously gets trued up when they bill them after the fact for their service level agreements, but looking back when you're billing in the fall of 24 for fiscal year 23, you're always behind. They are cognizant of that, and they are working with Finance and Management to see if we can come up with a better system. Now, having said that, we don't have extra ADS charges showing up in many, if not most areas of state government. There seems to be a lot concentrated in the Agency of Human Services. Now, keep in mind, AHS is basically half of our state general fund budget. So they're the largest by far, but we're not seeing, ADS charges that weren't budgeted from, say the Attorney General's office or the Secretary of State's office, or we didn't see it for the Department of Liquor and Lottery. So it seems to be mostly concentrated in AHS from what we've seen so far. So my suspicion is the other departments are maybe estimating enough going forward to make sure that they have enough in their budget.
Yeah, I think that some of it may be that there's a lot of discrete projects that are happening, and with AHS, there's a lot of federal funds that comes in that's reliant on.
And I think that could be part of it, and I know part of the charges in AHS was, there was a sizable amount for the software.
IDNA.
Yeah, okay. Too many acronyms.
Integrated enrollment and eligibility and enrollment or something like that.
Yeah, we've been paying for it for
Yeah.
like a decade.
Yeah, but there was, a charge for that.
Which I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. 'Cause
It's
Good.
we talked about that one.
Representative Cutler had a question. Are you
I just wanna
still on?
flag, because I know Representative Harrison is here to just give us information, but I want to flag that ADS, really such an important concept. So glad that the governor put that in place. But since that has happened, which is, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, they have yet to come up with kind of a sustainable funding mechanism for replacing IT. We just received so much benefit from the federal funds that came in, which allowed us to catch up on some projects. So I just want to flag that when they come in, this is, sustainable funding is a thing.
Representative Kleppner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The September billing cycle that ADS does out to the agencies, they do the whole year all at once?
No. They give each department, some guidelines, estimates, and then they actually bill actual. So you can imagine if you went to an accounting firm and you say, how much is it gonna cost you to do our tax returns? And they give you an estimate, and then they get into it and they find out it's a little bit more detailed and it costs them a little bit more time. You're gonna pay for the actual cost.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, they don't invoice quarterly or some other way?
Yeah,
They could avoid a giant reconciliation at the end?
As was said, we talk on a high level.
We're having them come in.
Understood.
They're coming in.
Great, thank you.
So, yes,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any other state agencies that bill like that, or does ADS stand alone in that?
Good question. There is a lot of things done in the state government that are billed through what we call interdepartment transfers. For example, many, but I don't know, it's probably different, because, IT is obviously a lot more technical than some areas. But for example, human resources, in many departments, or agencies have embedded human, resource people. And so it's like the personnel manager for, this agency. And those are all billed through internal service funds, but it may be more realistic in terms of estimate. They know what their costs are. It's not, I don't know that they're billing by the hour every time they talk to an employee that has an issue. So I think, it's a lot more of a quantity. That's a good question. I don't know offhand.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Representative Morrow?
Can you explain what the Global Commitment Fund is?
Okay.
Man, we're getting off track here.
Now we are getting off track.
All right, we can table that for another.
No,
time.
that's where we run all the Medicaid
Yeah.
expenses. And we also call it the mixing bowl if you want to impress somebody. Medicaid is paid for. It's a state-federal partnership. And if you're interested, we have on our website from Tuesday, I think, maybe Medicaid 101. And it kind of explains that because some things are differently, but like Medicaid in general is 57% paid for by the federal government and 43% by the state general fund. But there are some variances in that, and some programs may not be 57%, maybe a different percentage. So when we pay for Medicaid, we pay for it out of what we call the Global Commitment Fund. And then separately, there's a general fund and federal fund appropriation. So
Thank you.
I hope I said that right. Medicaid's not my area.
So, Representative Harrison, I am looking at, there was a document that I'm not seeing on the website. It was a chart.
Okay.
And it just showed agency by agency, the specific asks. And I want to find
For
that.
BAA or for?
For the BAA, yeah, I want to try to get back to the BAA.
Okay.
Where is it on our website? That's the language.
Oh,
It's on our website, it's on our website.
You're talking about the spreadsheet?
I'm talking about a spreadsheet.
Yes, there's a huge spreadsheet, it's about 6 pages long.
Yep, and
And it does
is-
go by department, and it's, if you can understand that, you're ahead of me, because there's all kinds of categories. The one we pay attention to is obviously the general fund. And then
So-
there'll be federal funds and there'll be special funds, and until you ask, you don't know what that special fund is, because there's all kinds of different ones.
Okay, so in my mind, anyway, the specific thoughts that you will need to hear from us on for the BAA, not the larger budget issues.
Right.
Are B105, Agency of Digital Services. And it looks as though there's some sort of $786,000 discrepancy. Is that?
I'm not looking at, I don't remember.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead.
the amount of money that is basically, coming back out of ADS because of a typo in the conference committee report last.
That's right, I remember.
Last,
Yes,
year, last May,
you're right. Got printed.
there was a printing error. So there was supposed to be 800 and something.
Yes, thank you.
$1,000 coming out of ADS, but only, whatever it was, 87 came out.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so eyes on the prize with specifically the BAA, you might need to hear from us about that we agree that we should correct the typo and true up the money.
Those are the easy ones.
Yeah, is there anything?
No, I should have brought this spreadsheet.
That's okay, I've got it right here.
You need a magnifying glass to read it sometimes, but there's a lot of information on there. But what is very, very helpful is in the far right column is they put little explanations
Mhm.
as to why, where those numbers came from. And I think Representative Campbell said it right, that there was a transposing of numbers and it was caught afterwards, and they're just asking to fix it so that we're right, but it wasn't new money or a new appropriation.
Okay, and then I'm seeing, under Public Safety Administration, B208, now, is that us, Sarah, or is that like
That's not us.
Sherry? That's not us.
B105 is the only one that we're in the ballpark. Well, I mean, as far as digital stuff.
Well,
You think? No?
I don't think so.
the AHS that he mentioned, B300, if you read the note, it's got the details on the ADS
Okay.
charges,
Right.
and it's a big number.
I didn't read those notes.
Yeah, and part of that is that child welfare computer IT project, I don't know what the acronym is, but, and then part of it is updated billing on their service level agreements. And you see SLA throughout on the, some of those SLA, but that service level agreement, that's the ongoing work that ADS is doing. Back in the prior to ADS days, departments had their own IT people. And I'm sure just like we have our own IT department here. And when ADS was formed, all those embedded folks became employees of ADS. And so they're charged back. They may still be doing the same things, but they're charged back for uniformity and security and a whole bunch of other reasons, for centralizing that.
So this is an interesting one because the B300, I'm just looking at a little text from Representative Scheid that she sent me. I just said, what are our budget numbers, And we're not B300, but B300 is changing because of ADS, and ADS is our budget category. So we should make sure that we are understanding that B300 line. Are there others, Representative Torrey, that are due to ADS? Maybe maybe we should have Rep. Kaczynska in next, or is that, no, that's Rep. Harrison. So you can see me trying to figure this
He's
out.
the expert.
Okay,
I have, looking at the description here, 205, 206, 208, 300, 306, 311, 314. are all ADS.
Oh, yeah, you're right, increased
You
ADS.
can see
And I
it.
mean, those are like, so ADS will probably come in and just explain each of those.
Explain it.
probably. And you, maybe the subject matter, the department or agency.
No, I, having them explain
Mhm.
what they did yesterday, I found very, very helpful to understanding what it is they do. They have certain base functions, which we all enjoy in state government,
Mhm.
separately from the legislature, but the whole web interface, for example, the Vermont.gov, all that internet traffic throughout state government goes through their internet connection. Not the legislature, we have our own,
Mm.
and the judiciary now has their own, because they're an independent branch of government. But all the other, I don't care if you're Attorney General's office, or the treasurer, or the Agency of Agriculture, they all go through Vermont.gov. And so the ADS is responsible for, you know, the connectivity, the security, cybersecurity, which is a huge thing that they're upgrading all the time. You have to. You know, servicing all those clients. So that's part of their baseline function. And then obviously everything else that we do with software upgrades and new programs and whatnot, which is constantly ongoing. The big projects we do try to fund through a technology fund. Representative Sebelia reminded me of, you know, when we had some of the ARPA money, we tried to bank some of that to pay for, like we knew, for example, we needed a upgrade for our unemployment system. You all heard about the 40-year-old mainframe.
Oh, yeah.
That no one knows how to program anymore. And, you know, that's, you know, we've done a Department of Motor Vehicles upgrade to their whole software system. You know, there's a number of large ongoing projects. And we will rely on guidance from your committee as to if something's proposed, does it make sense? We can talk about the numbers, but we need your guidance as to what, yes, that's a good project and go for it. We have a consultant, Lisa,
Calvin,
yeah, she's, I believe, coming in next week.
she is.
She's a consultant to our joint fiscal office, and she's an independent view for us, and she will ask the tough questions, and she advises the joint informational, what's that acronym? Giant, yeah. You serve on that? Okay. So you know Lisa, and her advice I have found to be very valuable, and I trust the direction she's going for, and she'll tell you, no, they're on the right track. And other times she'll say, I have questions, and so let's talk about it.
Yeah. No,
So does the folks need us to weigh in on all of these other charges that ADS is?
No, you can certainly mention that we've talked, if you want to talk to ADS and get their explanation, I think that would be helpful to you. I think they recognize that, you know, maybe some of the agencies are surprised when they get that final billing, and maybe others are better at estimating what their needs are. And I don't want to say it's all AHS. They have larger budgets, so maybe in the scheme of things, these are small numbers. I'm not saying that they're small, but compared to the relative number of employees and their overall billing, did I do something?
no, sorry, Rep. Person, we have a CO2 monitor.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're all,
You kept it great.
stop talking.
Just don't ask that.
Okay.
So was Jack able to find that
It,
spreadsheet?
it was on the, it is on our website, I'm sorry. So,
Oh, I thought he was gonna put it up on the screen.
Yeah, it's really hard to see on the screen.
No, if you put it on the screen, then I'll have to explain it, and I
Yeah.
will totally
so,
miss it, so don't make me look bad the second week of the session, please.
all right, well, more questions? A plan is formulating in my mind. So, we have to have a little memo to approach by Friday. ADS was already planning to come in.
Yes.
And they've confirmed. We might, see if we can extend their time a little bit because they're coming in for ADS 101. Hello, this is who we are. This is the work we do. This is how we work with our state agencies.
Please help us understand your billing at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that we'll try to extend that time block and, we can ask questions about this, spreadsheet and their process in general. And that should give us everything we need, I think, to say to you in writing something like, we have reviewed this and, I don't know. It is what it is for right now, but we feel like we need to do this, and that going forward, or whatever it is we
This
determine.
conversation that we had yesterday and continue today, and I hope you continue it next week, has been very, very helpful. I'll give you an example, and I've only been on appropriations for a couple of years, but, each year we get very large numbers of adjustments for the Vermont Veterans Home. And we had a very, serious talk to them last year. I said, you come in, you need $6 million. And a lot of it's traveling nurses and other cost pressures that they have. And, please try to be more realistic when you're budgeting. And so the current year budget, they come in, they have a lot of asks, but they have agreed with finance and management to adjust the fiscal year 26 budget that we'll hear in 2 weeks. So that hopefully, there's always some true up with the federal dollars they get to support the veteran homes and the state dollars and the client population, et cetera, but we can't, count on having an extra $6 million that we can just put in there. So you make your budget realistic when you give it to us in the first place. So,
Super.
and they said they're gonna do that, so, I'm very pleased.
Okay.
Okay.
One last question about that. So the budget that appears in the big bill on the web report is $145 million, which is almost all internal service funds. Is that number then going to change dramatically? That 144 out of the 145 million is internal service funds. With all these changes that are in the BAA spreadsheet from other departments and agencies, does that then change that 144 number? Do you see what I'm asking?
Yeah.
I guess what I'm asking is ADS's budget out by all of the sum of all of these back charges that they're making, and that would affect.
Obviously there are adjustments, but I think, I'm looking at fiscal year 24. Their timesheet billing was 25.2 million, and projected in fiscal year 25 was 29.2. So, it increased, but some of that's, there could be a couple of additional IT people embedded.
Okay, so that's what they're paying their employees.
Yes.
Right.
And that's what's actually billed. They bill timesheet, billable hours.
Oh, that's their billings.
Yeah. So, your best bet's to have ADS
Explain all that. Okay.
explain it.
All right, all right.
Because something's gonna get lost in the translation if
Okay.
I explain it.
Okay.
High level, remember?
High level. We don't appear to be shaping shaping up to be a high-level committee. Um,
Oh, you've got some brain power in this room. I know you.
that's what I'm saying. We are diving in.
Yeah.
So,
I just think this is a great opportunity for us to really get a sense of ADS and kind of,
yeah,
you know, how things are going.
yeah, I mean, the
Maybe if
door
you
is,
could find
the door
out
has
where
been
the,
opened.
you know, that mainframe is behind the curtain somewhere, you can have a tour, you know?
That mainframe is serious business.
Yeah, I know, it's also up there in the cloud somewhere now.
Is it?
Except for maybe the labor legacy system.
Were you on
Stone
the,
tablets?
COVID call team?
Yes, yes,
That was wild.
that was hard.
Let us.
Yeah.
It was hard. Yeah, I remember, I know, not to digress on a Friday afternoon, but I remember calling, the speaker at that time, because I was getting, like everybody else, inundated with calls. I said, what do you want us to do? I'll answer the phone, I'll do whatever, they need help. And, you know, you had a department or an area with a handful of employees because there wasn't much unemployment. And all of a sudden, it went from a couple thousand to 100,000.
Yeah. I still have on my, I saw it the other day, I still have on my hard drive the spreadsheet
Yeah.
that I was keeping of
Yeah.
constituents who were contacting me with problems with UI. And, you know, the dates of all their contact, the date that I reached out to DOL, notes, resolution, what happened. I mean, it was
Wild.
wild.
It was wild.
It was wild. We were all sitting at home in our pajamas,
Yeah.
you know, legislating on Zoom and
Yeah,
it was crazy.
I had the same spreadsheet for my employees.
Yeah.
Their efforts. I
To
was not
get it.
I was not in my pajamas.
Yeah, I bet not. So,
It was a hard time.
it was a hard time.
And the good that came out of it is it really put to the forefront, we gotta upgrade. You know, I'd like to think, or I used to think that when you did software upgrades and computer upgrades, you actually became more efficient and saved money. Unfortunately, that hasn't seemed to proven true, but you have to do it. That's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Especially now with cybersecurity.
It would help if the upgrades worked. They don't.
Sometimes there's bugs
They
that,
don't always work.
and sometimes, and again, your committee is gonna be key on this. We've gone down the path of some systems, not to tell any tales out of school, but some of you will remember the one-stop shopping at the Secretary of State's website, the portal, small business portal, where you could get your licensing, fees or whatever for all areas, you know, of state government. And, instead of sending it over to ag for something and maybe it's working now, but it ran into some serious issues with the vendor that was selected. And, had to do some backtracking, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
Our school.
not a perfect system. Anyway,
All right.
I'm rambling, so.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. I feel like we know what we need to do next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
okay, I
Well, I
guess.
appreciate, your time and.
You bet.
Look forward to working with you all and,
Thank you. And as we're figuring out all of our processes and protocols, but we're gonna be a committee that gives every bill sponsor at least 15 minutes to come in and do a little review.
please don't take my 30 seconds off of the.
So I'm sorry to say you've used up your time. No, we'll get you in. Yeah, we'll get you in, to do a sponsor chit chat on H16. Thanks a lot. Okay, Jack, we can go off live. We're adjourned.
Oh, wait, did you want to hear about the?
Yes, we're not adjourned. We're not going off live.
Okay, we're still live.
Phew. Thank you. Representative Torrey.
So I was looking through that big spreadsheet for B233, which is the Public Service Department, and it was not there because the issue is not about money, it's about language in the statute related to DigSafe that we amended last year. Do you remember in our committee? So basically there was an omission where they extended the time frame from 48 hours to 72 hours for utilities. They forgot to mention excavators who are in a different section of the statute. So all it is this change to true those two things up. Very uncontroversial.
So one place said 72 hours, the other place still said 48
48.
hours. I see.
And so what, the witness was Bill Jordan, the Director of Engineering at the Department of Public Service. And he shared the story and the fact that they had taken testimony and heard from other, not testimony, but did their diligence to make sure that all the parties, utilities, DigSafe, Vermont Fuel Dealers, AGC, all agreed on this language needing to change. So I think that will be an easy thing for us to think about supporting.
Okay. Do you think we need to take testimony on that, or do you feel that we can?
I really don't think we do,
Okay.
unless anybody feels otherwise.
When is our budget memo due?
It's due Friday, and for our new members, especially, you know, what it would typically look like is just a little bullet, you know, on each area that's relevant to us. And I would probably rely on our committee appropriations liaisons to like draft, you know, just draft it. I don't need to try to write it. So, you know, Representative Campbell could write a couple of sentences about the typo. You know, you could write a couple of sentences about DigSafe, and then maybe you two work together or whatever to we'll write a paragraph on what we think about the ADS thing. And that'll probably look like what I was trying to think through in my head before, like we had them in for testimony, we asked about this, we understand the process, this is an issue we as a committee will be diving into. I don't know, I'm making this up, but it's gonna be something like that. Representative Sevilla, were you saying, do you think we need to try to get in testimony on the DigSafe question?
So I know
For
this
the
very
BAA?
specific, I do not, but if you do, or if the committee does, I know where we could get testimony, which it's the utilities that need it. But we did take testimony on this, it really is, last year, it really was a error, and so
Okay,
I was asking at the time because we have the utilities coming in on Friday, but so they'll be here, they can testify.
okay, since they're here, since they're coming on Friday, maybe you'd like to ask about that, but sounds like it's, unless anybody has any objections, it sounds like it's, okay, this is the time of the year when we typically find out about honestly, little typos and errors from last year that we need to fix.
So we're talking about two documents that are out there, one says 72 and one says 48.
Well, it's not two documents, it's actually the statute itself, it's in Title 30, and it's section 7006 that has the corrected amended 72 hour, but 7006A still says 48 hours, and that's what needs to be, I don't have the exact,
Okay, so it just didn't get caught in bill editing.
Is there an expedited process for, I'm sorry, Madam
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Chair.
That's
Is there an expedited process for errors and technical fixes like that?
well, I think Ledge Council spends the summer going through, and they catch a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's where this originated, I'm not sure.
Ledge Council probably caught it over the summer, and it is common at the start of the session or the start of the year you'll see technical corrections bills come flowing through, and it's to fix little things like that. Like, oh my gosh, we changed 72 and we changed it everywhere, and then we forgot to change it on page 2,986.
But the process for implementing a technical fix like
We
that
have
into
to
the
do it.
law goes from out of committee to the floor,
Yeah.
Yep,
through the Senate and the governor.
Whole deal.
The whole deal.
yeah, but it's like a technical, a lot of times you'll see a technical corrections bill,
Yeah.
and come out of each committee or.
Are there other technical corrections that many of them can be addressed at a single time?
Sometimes, yeah. Mhm. Do you have anything to add? Yeah.
I would just say that the BAA, Budget Adjustment Act, which we're looking at now, and the budget itself end up being catch-all places for little pieces of things that need to move. And so, good to look at it. Yes,
But this wouldn't go under a budget adjustment.
it is in the budget adjustment.
There's 72 versus 48 huh?
It is,
Mhm.
yes, because it's a bill. So this is a bill that is moving quickly and will get passed by the House and the Senate in theory. It'll be one of the first bills that'll get passed and the governor will sign. And, they're doing a lot of, utilities are doing a lot of construction and need that kind of trued up for their planning and other things. So there are any number of things to watch for in the Budget Adjustment Act and the budget.
I'm just looking to see, where is it in the,
B11, is that what you said?
did you say B11?
Or B,
B233 is the,
where did they come up with B11?
but it's not in the
It's
spreadsheet.
not a bubble.
It's in the language, right? I was just gonna try to show it, pull it up and show it to, Representative Howland so that you know what we're talking about. Jack, can you get some stuff up on the screen?
Yep, what can I do for you?
Put, please, under Rep. Harrison's materials, put FY 2025 Governor's Recommended Budget Adjustment Act. That specific document, and maybe we can find it. Mhm.
So, and I don't know if people get paper copies, I usually do, I have to sign up for them, but you'll get a literal paper copy of the Budget Adjustment Act if you sign up for that at your desk, and you can go through, and so there's sections where the numbers are, and as the story said, there's just language in the back. And so, things can just get tucked in there. Cause it's something that's moving.
Mhm.
Apologies, Madam Chair, what was the name of that again?
FY 2025 Governor's Recommended Budget Adjustment Act. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, Representative Troy, one more time. B what?
B233.
Okay, let's see if I can find it here. Is that where you?
Let's see, what about if you just go, if you can get it to go to section 71? Oh, wait, that's of the.
Oh, section 71, that sounds more promising, because that's when we get into the language in the back, right? Yeah. All right, I am
Oh, there,
flying
you're there,
through
you're
here.
there, you're there, you got
There it is.
So you see the maintenance of underground utility facility markings. And you see there's 7006 and 7006A. And there's the explanation.
And there's the 40 to 72. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So in the budget, as you go through, you'll see a lot of like numerical sections. And then when you start getting toward the back of the budget and the Budget and Adjustment Act, you start to see more languagey type stuff. So, yep. All right. So there it is. So that is what they're fixing. That one little section where it should say 72 and they didn't catch it and it still says in statute 48. Okay. So, I'm not feeling, unless there's other sentiment in the room, I don't think we need to take testimony on this. Very good. Okay.
No.
All right. I feel like we have our plan then for next week in the Budget Adjustment Act, and this is great practice for the budget. Okay, next week, before we go off live, we'll have our agenda posted as soon as we can. I'm hoping by the end of today, we can get at least something tentative posted. Things are coming together. Next week, we're continuing with kind of a lot of our 101s and our learning with legislative council coming in. Agency of Digital Services is coming in. The Public Utility Commission is coming in. We're trying to get the utilities coming in. So we're continuing on our learning journey, and we will make sure that we meet our homework deadline and get our memo to approps by Friday too. And we're going to find time on the agenda to talk about our committee guiding principles. We were going to do that today, but I think when we're not all so tired would be great. Yeah. Questions? Okay. All right.